Things have changed in Prosper Landing. The walls that kept the community safe since the rise of the walkers have fallen, and the undead roam the village streets. The plant is in flames, burning out after a compressor explosion ended the dream of a reliable source of propane for the community. Over the course of the past 16 weeks, you, the community of the Walking Dead Last Mile, have shaped the fate of Prosper Landing and Glacier Point. Your choices have led to this moment. Let's see how.
When we first met the survivors of Prosper Landing, they were preparing for the winter ahead. The plant workers were struggling to repair the long-defunct stabilization plant despite hostility from a group of bandits. And the villagers were focused on hunting, gathering, and cultivating enough food to see both groups through the winter.
Sarah! What are you doing here?
While resources were scarce, tensions were high, and a fight broke out between the two groups during their regular swap meeting. Because the player community decided that Harper was the twin who needed more help, Dylan ran to his aid when the noise of the fight drew walkers, leaving Jamie, the other twin, to fend for himself. Jamie died, and Dylan and Harper were left to grieve and resent what had happened.
No twin should have to go through this.
When Dylan chose to stage a raid on the plant, the community voted not to use the flare gun to distract the plant guards, and Dylan and Harper had to fight their way in. Harper was badly wounded, and Dylan was shot. He returned home to die in his mother's arms, and his death drove the two communities even further apart.
My baby!
Meanwhile, the resources of Prosper Landing were in your hands. Choices to focus on the grow house or hunting.
Now let's see, spend time preparing for a kill we might not even get instead of preparing for a winter that's certain. Yeah, no thanks.
To pay attention to Doc's teachings, to insulate homes or central locations, and to join the hunts made a difference in the stockpile of the community.
It's time to try hunting seals again.
Now, when Kate asked Sarah for help on the bear hunt, the players voted to send the dogs out to track. And as a result, Sarah's beloved Truly was injured. Instead of putting him down, the community voted to heal him, and Sarah's pack remained intact, at least for a little while.
As the prologue came to an end, when a single survivor from the Anchorage group arrived at the plant, the community bid to use some of the precious supply of antibiotics to help heal the feverish man.
Help me.
When he was able, the survivor gave advance news that a massive herd of walkers was headed that way, and that the folks of Prosper Landing needed to prepare. Act 1 saw the community questioning Abe's leadership.
Days are already getting short. We should be using this time to insulate the grow house.
As a bid revealed that the players thought Remy might be a more fit leader.
So convenient. You always seem to find something else to do first.
They were ready to listen to Tara, however, when she chose who should check for storm damage during the blizzard.
Seriously, Tara, what are we even looking for?
Unfortunately, that choice led to death for one of the plant workers, who accidentally stumbled into a room of toxic gas and rose as a walker. The plant had to decide how to flare the stack and eliminate the gases, and the community chose the quick and easy method of using the flare gun to ignite the stack. It worked, and the plant was cleansed of the dangerous gas. But this choice meant the igniter was never repaired, a choice that would later prove disastrous.
Now we've got to light it again next time we need it.
Abe decided to throw a potlatch to repair the bonds between the village and the plant. The community decided the plant workers should go, even though bandit attacks had become much more frequent. But the event didn't go well. Marlena, still grieving her son, started a fight with one of the plant workers, and saltwater walkers emerged from the bay and attacked the party. Even after the walkers had been driven off, the potlatch seemed to be cursed, with many of the attendees contracting botulism. With the possibility that the seal oil was the culprit, the community chose to store the oil for non-food related uses and stash the supply in the grow house. The bandits were an ever-pressing concern, and despite the community's choice to share food rather than fight them, problems persisted. Kate warned the plant workers about bandit attacks on the main path, but after the potlatch, the players still voted to take the main path home. The plant workers were attacked by bandits, and Lottie was kidnapped while Wyatt ran home to get help. The final flare was used to summon aid for those kidnapped, and Kate, Tara, and Sarah rescued Lottie. but they returned to more trouble at the plant. In addition to their own botulism outbreak, the plant workers had an internal struggle brewing, with some among them wanting to take Sarah's dogs for meat.
You lay a hand on my dogs, and I'll end you.
The community was against that idea and informed Tara about the plan, so when Roy tried to make a meal of one of the dogs, Tara stopped him.
Don't touch my dogs.
A need for medicine sent Sarah and Wyatt to the village, but Marlena refused to let them in. The community voted to tell Abe about this, and Abe had to consider the reality that Marlena might not be suited anymore to lead up the village defenses. Before he could make any decisions, however, violence erupted. Sarah discovered her dogs missing. After thoroughly searching the plant, a plant worker told her that the dogs could have been taken to the village to hunt. Without any other plausible options, Sarah became convinced of the village's theft and marched to the front gates along with Wyatt and a few others. Sarah demanded the return of her pack and wouldn't accept the village's protests that they didn't have the dogs. Finally, the situation escalated until shots were fired, and a few were killed. The plant workers were taken prisoner and locked in the grow house shed until a decision could be made as to what to do with them. The community chose to allow the plant workers to offer reparations, a decision that angered someone in the village. That person attacked Abe while Abe was talking with the plant workers. The unseen attacker snuck up behind him and knocked him out, then set the grow house on fire.
Let us out!
Though Doc helped Abe and the prisoners escape, Wyatt remained trapped in the grow house. When Sarah ran in to look for him, the consequences of storing the seal oil were finally revealed. The fire spread to the oil, causing an explosion, and Sarah lost her life in the blaze. Meanwhile, Kate and her hunters discovered that the herd had thawed and was advancing on the village. The community bid to still try to complete the plan instead of warning the village of the approaching herd. The noise from the small explosion wasn't enough to turn the tide of the herd, however, and the walkers descended on an unprepared and unwarned village. The only remaining option was to sneak through the herd and to try and warn Prosper Landing. The community chose to leave the two-way radio with River, and that choice saved Kate's life. All was silent as she crept through the herd, smeared in walker guts, and she made it through unscathed. Back in the village, community suspicion fell on Marlena as the culprit who started the fire. Though Marlena denied it, she did hand over her gun to Tasik while the accusation was being investigated. In the wake of the fire, Abe was uncertain of who he could trust, so he decided to leave the village and head for the plant.
Let's get past the wall. We'll be safe in the woods.
With Abe gone, the community decided the village would look to Remy for leadership, and Remy was gratified to finally be granted his due. Marlena, though, walked away from her duties to defense, choosing instead to watch the burned and injured Wyatt, determined to get answers and justice for Dylan. At the plant, a frantic Lottie wanted to know what had happened to Sarah and Wyatt after they left the village. Tara was unconcerned, certain they were safe in the village with Abe. But after Lottie learned that Tara had been the one to get rid of the dogs, Lottie's faith in Tara was badly shaken. Lottie made plans to leave and check on Wyatt herself, but the community voted to tell Tara of those plans, and Tara stopped her from sneaking off. To keep her safe, Tara locked Lottie in the back of the break room, but the community didn't approve and voted to speak with Tara about her choices. When the plant workers approached Tara, however, Tara reminded them that Lottie was the key to the success of the plant, and it was imperative they keep her safe.
Meanwhile, Abe and the others escaped the village and were headed to the plant. Doc and the very sick Joe were slowing the group down, and when it was clear Joe could go no further, Doc decided to stay behind and care for his patients. The players voted, and Abe decided to take the rest of the group on to safety. The group was set upon by walkers, and Abe was heartbroken to see that one of them was Doc. Abe was ready to end his old friend's suffering, but a moment of distraction allowed Doc to bite him first. Rather than amputate and risk shock or unconsciousness, Abe chose to lead the rest of the survivors to the plant, knowing that the bite would kill him without treatment.
Meanwhile, Wyatt woke up burned and in pain, with Marlena hovering over him. Though at first she was short with him, Wyatt's compassion and honest grief over Dylan's loss began to soften her. By this point, the herd had surrounded the village, and after initially feeling confident, Remy and the other defenders realized that they weren't going to be able to keep the herd out. Despite a desperate last stand, the wall fell, allowing the walkers to flood into the village. With walkers inside the walls, Marlena, Wyatt, and another injured villager, Javi, knew it was only a matter of time before they had to fight. The community chose for Marlena to have them all fight together, and everyone got a weapon. When the walkers did break in, Wyatt managed to distract them long enough to allow Marlena to kill them. While Javi shut and barricaded the door.
Abe arrived at the plant with his few survivors, but it was too late to save him. As he slowly succumbed to his bite, he begged Tara and Lottie to start the plant, hoping the loud noise would draw off enough walkers to allow at least some of the villagers to escape the herd. Before he could convince Tara to agree, Abe died, and a grieving Tara shot him to stop him from rising. Back in the village, Tasik and a few others managed to barricade themselves in the community center. Tasik wanted to come up with a plan to help everyone escape the village, but Remy was looking out for himself. He wanted to escape on his own while Tasik and the others staged a rescue. But the community voted to drag him along with the rest of the group. A brave fighter sacrificed himself to distract the walkers and fire off a flare. And it worked long enough for Tasik, Remy, and the others to escape.
Lottie, Tara, and the others saw the flare from the plant and knew it was now or never.
They need us, Tara. You know we can help them.
Lottie declared her intent to start the plant, and as voted by the community, Tara agreed that they had to try, despite the risk. When Lottie realized they had to turn up the volume, she chose to make the ultimate sacrifice. Since the community had voted against repairing the igniter in Act 1, there was no safe way to light the flare stack now. Lottie climbed the stack and manually fired it, incinerating herself even as she set off a roar that would draw every walker. Though the plant workers had done their best, the old plant couldn't handle being fully ignited. A blowback into the compressor room caused an explosion, and the entire plant went up in flames.
Because the community had voted to create an oil barrier to light in case of a walker attack, Tara found herself caught in a ring of fire and couldn't escape the plant. The plant's sacrifice was not in vain, as its devastation created a distraction that allowed some of the survivors to evade the herd and make their way north to the pipeline.
I don't know about you, but I'm going north, to wherever this goes.
You'll die up there, all on your own, kid.
Then come with me.
As our 4-month journey concludes, let's look back at exactly who lived and who died based on your feedback. Lottie died because the community didn't make the long-term decision to repair the flare stack. Her sacrifice ultimately saved the rest of the survivors, but it forces her lover, Kate, to continue on alone. Sarah died rushing into the fire to save Wyatt, but the community voted to store the highly flammable seal oil, resulting in a devastating explosion. Sarah's love for her pack ultimately was her undoing. Kate lived because the community chose to leave the noisy radio with River, allowing her to sneak through the herd unscathed. Though grief-stricken with the loss of Lottie, she is given a chance to start anew. Doc, the joyful village healer, died because the community voted for Abe to leave him behind with a patient. His noble choice was made more tragic by the fact it led to Abe's death at the hands of his best friend. Marlena lived because the community voted to have her give weapons to Wyatt and Javi. Though her grief fueled her anger, she now has a chance to let go and seek redemption. Remy lived because the community voted to force him along on the escape. His story continues as he learns he needs to trust others to survive. And lastly, the leader of the plant workers, Tara, who died because the community voted to prepare an oil fire as a defense for the walkers. She almost made it, but recently was forced to shoot her ex-husband Abe as he turned into a walker, and ultimately she saw her demise with the plant she fought so hard for. I'm crying because we killed so many. But at least Wyatt, Tasik, Kate, Marlena, and Remy live on as they travel north to the pipeline. One thing is for certain, their stories couldn't have been told without you. Your choices have given them a future, and who knows where we'll see them all again. Thank you, one and all, for helping to shape the Walking Dead canon.